Hello, it's a fourth line day, and today we are exploring gate 59 in the fourth line, and it is called Brotherhood, Sisterhood. This is where sexuality becomes externalized. This is the fourth line, the upper trigram. It externalizes the essence of the hexagram, and it can be very fixed about what it's externalizing. And this hexagram is all about establishing union. It is not about establishing a good sex life. So the fourth line is fixed on establishing that union. And it is also fixed on establishing friendship. We know that friendship is a really big deal for fourth lines. And it becomes the focus for everyone who carries this line. This is the line of the confidant, both finding one and being one. The ability to be intimate and what the core of real intimacy is can only be seen in this fourth line. The first line isn't about intimacy after all, it's about conquest, which is the basis of how our sexual dance, our whole mating dance began, through conquest. But the sophistication of intimacy begins with the upper trigram, because now you have the transpersonal skills. Intimacy that cannot understand or begin to understand the nature of the other can never work. The fourth line, by its very nature, is there to externalize intimacy, and it recognizes that the other on the other side will take intimacy in different ways. And that this is actually the least sexually, overtly sexually, in terms of strategy, of any of the six lines. I'm not sure I said that particularly well, but the fourth line isn't sexy, basically. This is something that Ra said. The second line, which hides from intimacy, that can actually seem a bit sexy, a little bit alluring, whereas the fourth line, which can transpersonalize, well, really, the intimacy isn't sexy at all. This is not, it's not a sexy fourth line. Wright actually said that no fourth lines are sexy. He said it just isn't, that isn't what they're about. They're about friendship. They're not about that kind of seducey thing that you get. Seducey, is that a word? Whatever it is that you get in the fifth line. That's not what the the fourth line has. The fourth line is not sexy, full stop. Genetic continuity and all that means that no fourth lines are particularly sexy. I have 11 fourth lines. I'll be speaking to Ra when I meet him one day up there or down there. Or, I mean, obviously there isn't an up or a down, but yeah, anyway. Thank you, Ra. This is the line of brotherhood and sisterhood. This is the mating strategy of friendship. Okay, so the goal of friendship is to get to the point of intimacy where sexuality may be possible. You become friends with someone, really good friends, and it's a friendship that can last for years, And then one night, the two of you are a little bit bored, maybe, or one of you is a bit depressed, or you've had a little bit too much to drink, and you end up making love, and you go from being friends to being lovers. You've crossed that line. It's a dangerous business going from friends to lovers, because the fourth line works through waves of hope to pain, and it also moves through the emotional wave of kindness to meanness. Where did hope to pain come from? Because it doesn't really. That's not particularly fourth line, not specifically fourth line. Kindness to meanness is the emotional wave of the fourth line. And there is an added complication here in the fourth line around just how much do you tell your friends? Because if they end up as your lover, then they're going to remember all those other terrible lover stories that you told them when you were just friends. And then they could get all uncomfortable about that. And it's really important to keep those things correct, isn't it? Friends, lovers, do they mix? Well, of course, sometimes they do. Is it correct that they do? That's another thing entirely. The exaltation says the dropping of barriers to union to establish a universal union, the power derived from non-sexual intimacy. So the 59-4 can be very difficult in teenagers. They may have lots of friends, but no partner, or no special relationship. And yet all their friends are getting intimate with others and they're hearing about it. So the not self kicks in and they start acting away from their design. They start shagging strangers and still they're unhappy. Once they understand their strategy, and this is a role gate, so we're talking about their bonding strategy, they can get over that barrier and they can enjoy their friendships and whatever their friendships may lead to or not lead to. In the detriment, we have an intellectual understanding that's rarely put into action, where the idea cannot restrain the sex drive. So this is where it's very hard to play the friendship game, because sex always gets in the way. And it's noticeable, but then again, it's a strategy. So, it still begins with friendship, but there's a great deal of pressure that is built in to turn that friendship into something else. And one of the things that happens in the fourth line, as I said, it operates in that wave of kindness and meanness. The kindness that is always at work in our friendships, and in that phase of friendship, and the meanness that sort of comes into being the moment that you step into the sexual phase, and all of a sudden the things that your friend got away with, which weren't a problem, you're judging in your lover, and you're suddenly having that kind of things change. One night after many, many years of a really good friendship, you end up in bed, and the next day maybe you're not quite as nice to each other anymore. You're a bit awkward, or something else sort of slips in that changes the dynamic. And you can't know too much about each other when you're friends, because you've been very good friends. And so that also feels a little bit awkward when the goalposts have shifted. Lovers often have secrets. Friends don't. They can't afford to have secrets. Good friendships, deep, intimate friendships, can't afford to have secrets. So this is the other side of this brotherhood, sisterhood. Ra always pointed out something about the fourth line, that its resonance to the first line kicks in here, which means that the fourth line still has an element of that weakness and strength about it. But it's on a slightly different level, because one's personal, transpersonal, one's the other thing. Oh God, I've forgotten the word. Investigative, you know what I mean. It's not interpersonal, isn't it? Oh, anyway, that word. Whatever the first lines are. It's impressive, isn't it? Okay, fourth lines. Yes, they resonate to the first line. So there's that weakness and strength element there. And he said, when you've known someone for a very long time, then there is often that moment when one can overpower the other somehow on one level. There could always be a slight sexual sort of frisson in relationships, in friendships. It's just because some people are working on that friendship level, it doesn't mean there is no sexuality within them. There isn't the potential for that to sort of go one step further. It means really that they're just working through a strategy that they don't have a lot of control over, because it's genetic imperative. All of these lines of gate 59 are genetic imperatives. Strategy and authority, that kind of strategy, is what is really necessary when you come to these lines. Because if a liaison with your friend that turns into a liaison with your lover, if it's not entered into correctly, you've just end up saying, we should have stayed friends. But sometimes then the friendship doesn't survive that sort of almost transition into being lovers. And then you've lost both, which is really sad. There can also be, in this line of brotherhood, sisterhood, complete rejection of sexuality. These are people, I guess, who would say someone who goes off into a monastery or into a nunnery, the celibate kind of brother and sister. Yeah, I mean, that's a sort of a rejection of this line. Although they live in brotherhood, sisterhood, they're doing it without that genetic imperative. I wonder if it kind of crops up, not as a physical, but just that the feeling of it, if that sometimes is an issue. I would imagine it would be, but maybe that's not somewhere we need to go on this particular moment. There are also some people who just like to cuddle. That's another thing, isn't it? They just want the warmth of friendship without having the messy, I was going to say sticky, and I've said it now, haven't I? The stickiness of a sexual liaison. I have to stop this. I have this very carry-on mentality sometimes, and I can really feel it starting to kind of, yeah. Anyway, it's a complex line. Should we just leave it at that? 59.4. It's a complex line. Oh, it's grounded by the 55.4, which is called assimilation. So I guess you could look at this as that the change as you move from friends to lovers, that assimilation can take some sensitivity and compassion, and maybe the spirit needs to come in to that, the spirit of abundance in embracing that transition into a new relationship. Perhaps this is how the 55.4 grounds the 59.4. So the moon is still in gate 23. This is the individual throat gate, called assimilation as well, lots of assimilation, patiently waiting to be invited to share its unique and innovative thinking. And then we stay in individuality for the rest of the moon transits today. Actually, it's going into 8 next. And you might be getting familiar with the way that it's going around the wheel. So we have gate 8, which is at 6:30 or 18:30 later on today, BST. And again, throat center as a gate of contribution. And this is the individual need to contribute something unique to the collective, actually. So the collective can see what is possible and possibly be impacted by that. It's an example that can be set through all of individuality to the collective, who can get a little bit homogenized sometimes. So show them something unique and different, and see if they are attracted by that, and they're able to then do something themselves. And the final moon gate today is gate 20, and that's actually at 4:16 tomorrow morning. Again, individual, and again, it's a throat gate because the moon is going through all of these throat gates at the moment. And this is the gate of the now. It's the gate of contemplation, the existential gate that is not concerned with past or future. It's just being here. It's contemplating and being absorbed in the now. What's happening right now? And that can be the only thing that somebody with gate 20 is interested in, especially if it's in one of those key positions like the personality sun. It can be very much as a, it's not happening now, I'm not really interested in it. And because it's a throat gate, there is the potential to articulate this sort of now awareness. But it depends on what the 20 is connected to. You know, if it's connected to the power in the 34, or the behavior in the 10, or the insight in the 57, these things are going to color what comes through in the now. Yeah, so the complex gate, the complex day. So if you have the 59.4, or you have any of these moon gates that we're talking about, and who have anything to share, anything you would like to comment or bring to the table, please do. I always enjoy reading any comments, and I'm getting a lot more recognition on Facebook and YouTube and various things that I'm doing, and I'm so grateful for that, because it's really, this is my offering, this is my love of what I do, and my passion that I give to my community here, and the recognition for it is lovely, and I appreciate it hugely. Yeah, so that's it for today. I will see you tomorrow for the 59.5. I have it twice. No, I'm not going to say anything else. I was going to say I'm going. Yes. Well, yes, tomorrow. I love you. Go gently. Thank you so much for joining me, for supporting me, for subscribing to my channel, for sharing me with your friends. I mean, my goodness, that's huge for me. So thank you. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.